I'm Jim Paxon. Today on Arizona Wildlife Views, we'll meet some people that are crazy about crayfish and some others that are experiencing the healing powers of a stream. Then we'll spend some time in the field with man's best friend. All that and more coming up right now.
Arizona Wildlife Views is brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
In Louisiana, they're called crawfish, and people call them crawdads, people call them crayfish, people call them mud bugs.
Whatever you call them, they're an invasive non-native species that have infested Arizona's waters.
They just start taking over, and one of their primary food sources are fish eggs.
They devour just about anything they can get their claws on. And they're making a mess of Arizona fisheries.
They're called mud bugs because they'll destroy all the vegetation and the greenery, and it'll turn the lake into a big mud hole.
Simply put, it's time to get these aquatic cockroaches out of our lakes and into our bellies. That's the idea behind the Arizona Crawfish Festival, the state's one-of-a-kind crustacean celebration. It's a party, a feast, and a public service.
Fun public service.
That's Rosie Romero. He's the longtime host of Arizona's home improvement radio show, Rosie on the House.
Good morning, Arizona. You're tuned in to Rosie on the House. What a spectacular Arizona Saturday morning it is.
A Louisiana transplant and an avid outdoorsman, Rosie's the guy who got the Crawfish Festival cooking after reading a story in the Arizona Game and Fish Department's flagship publication.
I've been a subscriber to Arizona Wildlife Views magazine since its inception. And about January, February 2001, there was an article in there about the menace crawfish were becoming to the Arizona waterways. And it just seemed logical to us Cajuns that if we could teach Arizonans how much fun crawfishing is, how easy they are to clean and cook, and how delicious they are to eat, we could solve Arizona Fish and Game's dilemma with the crawfish.
Rosie invited his listeners to Willow Springs Lake, and about 200 people showed up. 2,000 were there the following year, and the crowd got too big for the venue. So the festival moved to Camp Verde, but it got all of its crawfish from Louisiana. And in 2010, the event was discontinued.
It was in a location where you couldn't trap the crawfish, so it just lost that conservation effort.
Today, Romey Romero, Rosie's son and radio co-host, is bringing back the conservation, catching crawfish at Willow Springs Lake with friend and business partner Bobby Avery.
Nice.
Together, they started the Arizona Crawfish Company to give the Grand Canyon State a taste of their Cajun culture and to conserve Arizona's lakes and streams by removing these aquatic invaders.
Hey, now that's a little more like it. That's the amount of crawfish we like to see at least. There's a good 2 dozen in that one. Well, this is a basic crawfish trap. We like them because they're expandable. They spring load, they pop out. They've got a nice pocket for your bait, and then you get your crawfish out of here. Once you set it in the water, the crawfish just eventually crawl around, find their way in. They eat on the bait, which is what we have here, some processed crawfish bait out of Louisiana. Pretty convenient.
Romey and Bobby set 50 traps of different shapes and sizes in the lake overnight. Now it's time to find out how productive they are.
Let's go get them. You're gonna have to swim right to get this guy's fishing. 50 traps can be pretty hard to keep track of, so what we usually do is we'll tie 4 to 6 together in a string, and then we'll mark them. So we only have to remember we're about 10 of these buoys are instead of trying to remember where 50 individual traps are.
Some traps are light, while others are loaded.
Oh, nice.
That's a good 3.5 or 4 pounds of crawfish right there. Oh, another fish in that one. Here's the fun part. Trying to get the fish out without getting pinched too bad.
When the guys find a really good spot, they often add a special ingredient to their traps.
We'll add a little extra smell by putting fish-flavored cat food in the bait in the trap as well.
Whatever it takes to catch as many crawfish as possible, because in a few days, Romey and Bobby are bringing back the Arizona Crawfish Festival to Bison Ranch in Heber Overgaard.
Here we are, 2013, 11 years after the original one. Our vision is within 5 years, having enough people in Arizona trained and with crawfish trapping that we can put enough trappers on the lakes to extract 10,000 pounds of crawfish annually.
That's a lot of crawfish. They won't trap nearly that much this year, even with the help they're getting from trappers at other lakes. But they should have plenty for the festival, and to make sure, they've ordered an extra supply from Louisiana.
I am a big fan of them. Romey's favorite way of eating crawfish is etouffee. My favorite way is to boil them up in some good Cajun seasoning with some lemons and butter.
Look at that.
Anyone with a valid Arizona fishing license can catch crawfish for their personal use.
We're going to get a couple of these other traps pulled in and go in and get them put on ice.
There are limits on the size of the trap, and with a few exceptions, it's illegal to transport live crawfish. They must be killed or packed in ice.
Try not to get Romey pinched right here as we do this.
But if folks follow the rules, they can catch as many as they want, and if they're lucky, eat as many as they can. The Arizona Crawfish Festival had a little something for everyone. But the star of the show was this bowl of spicy goodness.
Yum.
This is my first time and I think they're awesome.
You boil them up into your water and your spices for about 2 minutes. You get your pot rolling, and then you let them soak for about 15 minutes. And the spicier you want them, the longer you let them soak.
That's the goodness, the tail.
I eat the tail first and suck out the head.
I don't know about that.
Sucking the head is where all the flavor is, and a lot of adults, you can't teach them to do that.
Nah.
Some people like to suck it out of here whole. I don't. I rip it apart.
All right, I will.
What you're doing when you do what they say, suck the head, you'll peel the tail off right here, and you'll just put your lips around this part, and that whole cavity will be full of juice that it soaked up from the boil. So you're really just getting a big shot of seasoning. You're not getting any brains.
Tell that to this woman who didn't get the memo on the proper technique.
No.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
At the end of the day, the festival served up about 700 pounds of crawfish that came right out of Arizona's lakes.
It's exactly what we want to do, teach people that it's a food source and it's not that hard to trap, and it's a whole lot of fun to eat.
The number one question I'm asked when I'm out in the public, invariably, is when's the next Crawfish Festival?
By the looks on these faces, not soon enough. Being outdoors is always good medicine. And sometimes fly fishing is just what the doctor ordered.
It's a calming effect. It's a time where you can take your mind out of, kind of get out of your own mind and just relax and enjoy yourself.
Project Healing Waters is a nonprofit that uses fly fishing as therapy for United States military veterans with physical and psychological scars from their service to our country.
I'm a Desert Storm veteran. There's a lot of psychological trauma that happened when I was there.
I served in Cambodia and Laos in '74. I broke my ankles in a jump. I was an Army Ranger airborne, and so I broke my ankles. And so they said probably didn't want me jumping anymore. So that, and I got some PTSD.
The program is really dedicated to their rehabilitation, and it seems to be working both physically and emotionally. Healing Waters is a national program that teaches disabled veterans how to fly fish, that teaches them the basics, how to cast, how to tie flies, and then it takes them fishing on opportunities like this.
As soon as it hit the water.
Each year, Game and Fish invites Healing Waters to bring its members to the Silver Creek Fish Hatchery near Sholo, Arizona. It's always on the 1st of October. That's the start of Silver Creek's 6-month catch and release season, when only artificial lures and flies with barbless hooks may be used.
And it's the whole state property here on Silver Creek. We actually got 840 acres here and about 2.5 miles of fishable water.
This section is special. It's Upper Silver Creek, an area off limits to fishing 6 months out of the year, but today is opening day. And just about a week ago, this area was stocked with some fantastic fish raised right here on the property.
3 up to maybe 7-8 pounds. That's a very quality fish.
Throw a little fish food into the stock pond and you'll get a glimpse of what's in store. That feeding frenzy consists of rainbow trout and Apache trout, Arizona's official state fish. It's a native fish that can only be caught in the White Mountains of Arizona, and this hatchery raises more Apache trout than any other. Later, volunteers will help stock these fish into other parts of Silver Creek. But for now, they're working with the veterans.
Not roll cast, I mean back cast.
To learn to fly fish, it's something that I'm going to be able to take with me no matter where I go.
That's not just the fishing, it's what's coming from the heart of everybody.
I've got 6 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, so I know what they're going through. I was wounded in 2001, October 2001, the helicopter crash killed my co-pilot, and it was tough coming home. So it's good to help out people that are going the same journey that I did when I went through it. And it actually helps me.
I don't know what the word is, but it's humbling. It's very nice that people care, you know.
It's been extremely rewarding for me. I think all who served gave some gave all, and these are the people kind of in the middle.
It gives me a chance to relax and not have to worry about the stuff that I worry about.
To be with other members of the armed forces, to hear their stories, to be able to share yours, be an inspiration for someone else, and yet have someone else be an inspiration for you is just, it's life-changing.
As the fishing continues, volunteers from Cabela's break away for a little while to help Game and Fish round up trout, load them into trucks, and get them into other areas of Silver Creek. The Silver Creek Hatchery raises fish, but it's also raising spirits. Not just for the wounded warriors who are here today, but for anyone who drops a line into the healing waters of Silver Creek or fishes the White Mountains of Arizona.
With the full moon waning, the early morning air is chilled, as only it can be in those last few minutes before dawn, and hunters Andy Knutson and Eric Faulkner hurry to complete the task at hand. With their decoys in place, they silently slip into their layout blinds as they wait to see if they can lure the ducks into this corner of the lake.
Sit.
Tank, Andy's black lab, is anxious to retrieve birds. Very anxious. Anxious to the point where he seems he's about to wriggle out of his own skin. Fortunately, they don't have to wait very long for the first few birds to come into range. And Tank doesn't need to be told what to do.
think he sees the duck go down, it's tough to keep him controlled. He wants to be in the water and on the retrieve and picking up the bird. He's got a real spirit for it and a real passion for getting out there. I started duck hunting when I was 13 years old. It was kind of a family tradition. My father's a duck hunter, his father was a duck hunter, and so we had tons of different area to hunt and opportunities for it, and so he got me into it at an early age. So I guess that means I've been duck hunting for 28 years, 29 years, something like that. Out in Arizona, we've been duck hunting for what, 15 years now, maybe?
15 years, yeah. And we've hit about every water hole, sinkhole, mud hole, lake, pond, all over the state.
Every year, around 6,000 hunters head to the waters of Arizona in pursuit of 20 species of available waterfowl. Duck hunting in Arizona can present some unique challenges, so being flexible in your approach to the sport can be helpful.
We hunt out of a flat bottom boat with a blind on it. We've hunted out of hay bale blinds. We're currently using today layout blinds. They all work pretty good, different applications. You know, layout blinds, it's a little bit more difficult to, you know, shoot ducks sometimes because, you know, you're in it sitting down if you're not used to that. You know, it takes a little bit to get your groove on with it, a little bit of practice. There's not a lot of cover around, you know, a lot of the lakes in Arizona, so you have to kind of improvise. A lot of people like to come out and just jump shoot, but we found the best success to put the decoys out and let the birds work.
As all hunters know, the amount of game you harvest isn't the only measure of a successful hunt. Sometimes just getting away from the stresses of work, the economy, and everything else going on in the world and spending time in the great outdoors is its own reward.
You know, you just sit back at a lake and you just don't think of anything but when the next bird's going to come in. And if it doesn't, you had a great day sitting out at the lake, and a lot of times you see various other species. We've seen bald eagles drop down on the ice and snatch, you know, a dead mallard off the lake. You know, so there's all kinds of things. This particular lake, you know, you see some elk around, you see all kinds of animals, and it's neat to.
Yeah, heard the coyotes calling this morning, and today we had quite the showing of red-tailed hawks that were dancing all over the lake. So
yeah,
it's all that. There's so much that happens around us that we don't get to see because we don't often enough sit still enough just to watch it. And that's one of the beautiful parts about duck hunting is you're sitting still and you're watching nature around you. And you're always amazed at what comes up because you never know what's going to be next.
Of course, don't tell that to Tank. He knows what his job is, and sitting around admiring the natural world in all its glory is not it. While you don't have to have a dog to hunt waterfowl, you can always pick up your downed game from a boat. They certainly add an extra element to the experience.
It's just more fun. It's just fun to watch the excitement of the dog running around. To have that companion. I mean, there's some times where Eric can't go hunting with me, and there's times when I've gone out with just he and Tug, the other dog, and it's just fun. I mean, it's a different level of excitement when the dog's around because you can see him. He's game on the entire time. He does not sit down and rest. And it's just fun to have that.
When we miss a duck, you'll hear he sits there and whines at us because he knows we missed the duck. And his favorite hobby when we do miss a duck is to go pick up the spent cartridge and bring it back and show us that that's all he had to retrieve.
Yeah.
If you're interested in getting started in duck hunting or taking your game to the next level, there's a lot of information available to help you out.
Best thing you can do is talk to Game and Fish, go to the local Forest Service, pick up some maps and see what's around and start talking to some folks about the different lakes and the different bodies of water that are out there, and then get out and go scout. Go see where the birds are. And one group that we both believe in very strongly is Ducks Unlimited. We're both members of Ducks Unlimited. Eric was a former state or area chairman, and I'm a current area chairman with the Ducks Unlimited chapter. It's an excellent organization to meet like-minded individuals that are involved in the sport and also involved in the conservation end of it, where we can participate in giving back to the sport that we all love so much.
Today, Andy and Eric took canvasbacks, teals, bufflehead, and a ringbill. Even though they didn't make their bag limit, it was enough to make it a successful trip.
Yeah, so we've got a large lake that we're working, and the birds were spending their time on either side of it and not in front of us. So it made it a little bit challenging. There's about 1,000 coot or so on the lake, and they were decoying the ducks right into them. So it made it a little bit more difficult, but enjoyable nonetheless. We still had a decent shoot, picked up a handful of birds, so it was a lot of fun.
I think it's fair to say that Tank had a good time too. Now if they can just find a way to get him a little more excited about being out in the field.
Bring it here, buddy. Here, boy. Good boy, Tanky, good boy. Give it here. Good boy.
Arizona Game and Fish has completed its testing of deer and elk for chronic wasting disease for the 2011 hunting season. The department tested 1,185 deer and elk during the 2011 season and did not detect the disease in any Arizona animals. Testing will resume this fall. Chronic wasting disease, or CWD, is a neurological disease that attacks the brain in deer, elk, and moose, and is characterized by progressive weight loss, abnormal behavior, and eventually death.
It causes the animals to behave abnormally because it basically puts holes in the brain, and a holy brain doesn't work too well. So they have abnormal behavior. They may act like they're blind. They may do a lot of salivating. They have an increased desire for water, so they want to drink a lot, and they don't raise their young normally. And so this can reduce the number of animals that reproduce.
Chronic wasting disease has been found in deer and elk in Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico, but it has not been detected in Arizona.
In New Mexico, it is limited to the areas east of the Rio Grande. So there's not only a lot of territory, but a fairly significant river between the infected animals here and the border of Arizona. And in Utah, it is north of the Glen Canyon recreational area, so it's north of the Grand Canyon and Lake Powell, and there's a lot of very rugged territory between Arizona and Utah. Because CWD is quite a bit of ways away from Arizona, and the disease is transmitted by animal movement primarily, we are not expecting CWD to show up in Arizona in any short period of time. We have been monitoring deer and elk in Arizona for the presence of the disease for more than 10 years and have not detected it in any of the thousands of animals that we have sampled. And we are going to continue monitoring for it.
Arizona Game and Fish is doing the heaviest monitoring along our border with New Mexico and on the Kaibab Plateau south of the Utah line.
We are looking for it in the deer and elk that are harvested by our hunters here in the state. We have check stations set up on the Kaibab. We remove the lymph nodes from the throat area of the deer and elk, and those are sent to a lab and tested for the presence of the prion. And we do a similar check station in eastern Arizona as well, or hunters can bring their animals to a regional office, or we have a number of taxidermists and meat processors, game meat processors, that are working with the department to save us the lymph nodes from the animals so that we can test those. So it's quite an extensive operation using a lot of different personnel, and every year we test around 2,000 samples. And that's enough to detect the disease if it were occurring in less than 1% of the animals. So that's a very significant sample size, and we can definitely say that we do not have chronic wasting disease in our deer and elk herds in this state.
Arizona Game and Fish is continually working to help our state maintain its CWD-free status.
In 2010, we developed a new CWD response plan and management plan, and in that response and management plan, we identified some changes that we needed to make to the rules in order to reduce even further the possibility of introduction of CWD into the state. And the first thing that we identified was that we should prohibit people from bringing in intact carcasses and untreated, untaxidermied mounts and trophies. So they were going to change the rule that way. The additional thing that we identified is that should we detect CWD in Arizona, we should have a response plan, which we now have.
While CWD is fatal to deer, elk, and moose, there have been no reported cases of humans ever being infected.
Researchers have been really pushed to try and determine whether or not people are susceptible to chronic wasting disease, and there is no evidence to date that people can get chronic wasting disease. So it's limited strictly to deer and deer species. So deer, elk, and moose are all very closely related, and they are susceptible, but people are not.
Well, that's our show for tonight. If you have any questions, check out our website at AZGFD.GOV. For all the fine folks at Arizona Game and Fish, I'm Jim Paxon. We'll see you next time.